I'd say commercial is probably no different to domestic in terms of issues. Obviously, the fault can become more extreme in terms of where we're dealing with higher currents, bigger cables, more important equipment for businesses, basically. So, but in terms of faults, what we've seen, or electrical issues, it can very depend. I think sometimes more burnt out devices, burnt out cables because they're pulling higher loads. But yeah, nothing changes between a commercial and a domestic property in terms of the way the fault is occurring. It's just down to the loads that are being pulled. I think because of impact it has on the business. I think they don't want to stop productivity of whatever that business might be. So they tend to hang on until, like you say, until it stops working. And once it stopped working, then that's when they call the electrician. At that point, it's probably too late because the damage has probably already been done, which is then going to cost them more in electrical repair than what it would have been to lose that productivity, I'd guess. Again, I think down to productivity more than anything. I think if they aren't keeping things up to date, then they don't know the compliance of their business. So if certain tests and inspections not carried out, then it can all boil down to a fault. So I think once that fault occurs, then productivity can certainly impact that business, but also the cost of repairing those electrical faults has also got an impact. I think business owners, same as a domestic property owner, nobody knows the scale of their own electrics. I think we don't know it until we come and test these things. But yeah, I think it's just a case of getting to understand it. I think they'll have a certain idea when it comes to compliance because they'll have to for insurance purposes, for the compliance of the business purposes. But yeah, I wouldn't say they know the ins and outs because, again, commercial, domestic, industrial, it's always going to be the same. Nobody knows the ins and outs of their electrical business or electric side of their business, so to say. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a difference between commercial and domestic in terms of some commercial premises will have a three-phase supply. Some domestic premises will have a three-phase supply, but it's different in the aspect of it depends what that commercial business is. You're going to get commercial businesses where it requires bigger loads on their supply for their productivity. But there's also commercial businesses like, say, hairdressers, barbers, for instance, which will look exactly the same as a domestic property. It's just in a commercial building. So there's no difference between a commercial and domestic in that sense, but there could be depending upon the business. Yeah, so we have to minimise their downtime, we'd have to work out of hours. So out of hours meaning nights, maybe sometimes the weekends, to just work around them as a business more than anything. So whatever their working hours are, we'll work outside of their working hours to stop them from having downtime. I think, again, we've got over 20 years of experience within the industry. So we've got a reasonably sizable team of electricians. So I think the reason you choose Stator Electrical over a one-man band, for instance, is probably because we have more availability. We can get to you quicker. We have an online booking system that allows you to book online, to pay online, without the need to ring anybody else, to ring other companies, even to ring ourselves. But again, it all comes down to the size of the team and to the experience that we've got. We've worked in all nature of business, so be it domestic, be it commercial, be it industrial. We've got a lot of experience. So I think that's the reason why you choose us over anybody else. I think if you've got a certain compliance in place for your business, i.e. be it certain emergency lighting tested every month, be it by yourselves or be it by us as a company or any other company, I think if you've got that plan in place, that will cover your emergency lighting. I think if you've got a compliance in for your electrical, where some companies have us testing every single year for their inspection and testing, where some people require every 5 years. Some companies, like I say, will go for the yearly plan because they want to stay ahead of the game, stay ahead of their electrical compliance. So it keeps them in front should anything happen. Yeah, so you've got people like I would say, certain companies that we look after, they'll have that tested every year as opposed to every 5 years. just because they might make certain changes within that year, even though that should be signed off by the person that installed it. But there'll be certain things that they want to check on a yearly basis. And again, it's down to the compliance of their business. I think if you have got a company that, like I say, want to stay ahead of their compliance, they will have their EICRs done on a yearly basis rather than a 5-yearly basis, or even a period in between. It may be a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, 4. But they like to stay ahead because, one, their insurance company might ask for that, but secondly, because they want to make sure there's going to be no faults. They don't want to stop that productivity going forward. So let's say, for instance, a leisure centre, that if they've got an electrical fault, they may have to shut the whole centre down. Now, that's obviously a massive impact on a business. So, and the repercussions from that, customers claiming money back, refunds, compensation, that could be huge. So everything has a knock-on effect. So again, they want to stay ahead of the game, the electrical side of it, just simply because they don't want to have faults. Why would they? Nobody wants faults. I think it would benefit. I'm not saying that they don't already exist, but it would certainly benefit to get in with your electrical contractors, ourselves, for instance, to see if there is some kind of subscription where you could pay, be it monthly or on a yearly plan. Yeah, like an annual plan, where you can pay for that and we'll come out and test. But yeah, there's certainly a benefit to that, without a doubt. It will stop any non-productive days, or at least minimize them. That's for sure. I'd advise this to any industrial, commercial, domestic client, that if you're moving into a business for the first time, get your electrics checked, because if you haven't done that, there could be a number of faults that could occur. But it's certainly worthwhile getting them checked out if you haven't already, just simply because, again, those unproductive days, those non-productive days, which could occur because you've not had your electric checked, and you just don't know what's hiding behind your walls. Nobody does. I think we certainly would show that you're going to be compliant because we're NIC, EIC registered contractors. So we again, with a lot of experience, we test the whole range of your electrics, 100% test. So we'll test all of that. So we'd certainly make sure that was compliant. In terms of future-proofing, by having the inspection test in the first place would future-proof that, so you know that the electrics going forward are in a good state. But also, if it came down to installation of something within a commercial, industrial premises or within a domestic dwelling, we always plan for your future. So should it be a rewire of your factory, your commercial premises, your domestic dwelling, that we always ensure that we've put big enough cables in, for instance, to ensure that you can get the best out of that property.